Hi there, this is a thought for the day. And once again, I'm reading from The Dance of the Dissident Daughter by Sue Monk Kidd. It's a wonderful story of stepping into your own power. And I'm reading from page 79. And this is titled, The Dam Breaks. The following March, I was confirmed into the Episcopal Church. Of course, patriarchy was there too, but leaving the Baptist Church was an important first step for me. It was an exercise in letting go, in trusting my feminine wisdom, trusting myself, because I needed to do that, to know I could do that. But looking back, I think some half-conscious part of me was also seeking a last-ditch way to make it all work. Moving into the Episcopal Church, I was looking for a more compatible circle of orthodoxy. I thought if I could be surrounded by the liturgies, rituals, and Eucharist, the things I had missed in an evangelical church, maybe that would fix everything. Maybe it would be enough. So I plunged in. I went to the Episcopal Church regularly. I taught a class. I tried to focus on the ancient beauty within the Eucharist. I tried to connect with the sacredness of the liturgy. I knelt in the pew and crossed myself and tried very hard. I kept whispering to myself, maybe I can find a way to live within patriarchal hierarchy and theology, take the good and ignore the rest. I won't think too much about what's not there. It will be okay. It really will. And in the newness of it, in my determination, I drank up the beauty and sacredness of the experience. Plus, there were the children to consider. They were, for me, the biggest concern of all. One evening that spring, I paused in the doorway of the kitchen and just watched them. Anne sitting on the floor doing homework, Bob busy with a video game. I'd explained my decision to them to attend a different church, and they'd been fine with it. In fact, the whole family had come with me at times, and in the years ahead, Sandy and the children would become confirmed in the Episcopal Church themselves. But what if I challenged that institution? Not setting the proper and accepted religious example for them, conjured up images of the bad mother, the worst mother. Yet, wouldn't the example of a mother being true to her journey, taking a stand against patriarchy, and questing for spiritual meaning and wholeness, even when it meant exiting circles of orthodoxy, wouldn't that be a worthwhile example? As I looked at their faces, love filled me up. It was the wise and difficult love that reminds parents that all we can really do is be true to our own spiritual unfolding and trust that our examples will one day help them be true to theirs. For children have a guiding spiritual wisdom inside of them, too. As summer came and went, I noticed my sense of betrayal had not diminished. Sitting in church, listening to liturgies that excluded the feminine, feelings of restlessness, alienation, and anger began to well up again. I began to yearn for a sacred environment that could help me remember my deep feminine self. One day, finding myself at a luncheon with a male Episcopal priest, I bravely, maybe even naively, explained my feelings about women in the church. He patted my hand. He said, "It's counterproductive to get hung up on side issues like that." End of discussion. Autumn came. I kept trying. But Sunday after Sunday, I sat in church feeling a little like the Dutch boy with his finger plugging the dam. It seemed like I was holding back a reservoir of doubt, pain, and disillusionment. One cold Sunday morning full of wind and flight, I went to church as usual. I sat on the last pew and I asked myself, since when is women's spiritual well-being a side issue? Where's the feminine standpoint in this service? Where are the earth, nature, the mother? Where are the power and celebration of women? The dam broke. I knew right then and there that the patriarchal church was no longer working for me. The exclusive image of God as a heavenly father wasn't working either. I needed a power of being that was also feminine. I needed a sacred space free of the stain of sexism, one with core imagery that embraced the feminine, a space that welcomed women to places of power, engaged them fully as equals, and helped to heal their wound and empower their lives. Nearly 100 years earlier, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, one of the mothers of women's suffrage, wrote, "With faith and works, woman is the chief support of the church and the clergy, the very powers that make her emancipation impossible." I sat quietly in the pew. I knew that despite how unthinkable and forbidden it was, I needed to move beyond religion in a patriarchal institution. This may not be true for every woman, but for me, it was crucial to my spiritual maturity and growth. At that moment, I took sole responsibility for my spiritual life. I went home with clarity about my feelings, but I was frightened by them nevertheless. My husband noticed my preoccupation. "Something on your mind?" he asked. When I finished telling him, I think he felt like the dam water had washed or rolled over him too. He'd been seemingly open, if a little reluctant, about my awakening experience thus far, but now he objected with the finality of a slammed door. "I wish you'd stop all this," he said. "What is this?" I asked him. "You know, this whole feminist thing." He felt threatened. I could recognize that even then. He didn't want anything in our comfortable world to change. The next few weeks, I struggled to stand my ground, the unfamiliar new soil of defiance. I was becoming more certain that I couldn't stay married in the same way, not in a relationship built on patriarchal values. I was asking myself, what will happen to this marriage if I claim real autonomy? How can I blend my spiritual quest as a woman with my marriage? During that time, I was reading the journals of May Sarton. One day, I came across this wise passage, quote, "Women have to come to understand ourselves as central, not peripheral, before anything real can happen. We have to depend on ourselves. This cannot be done against men." And that's the real problem. It cannot be woman against man. It has to be woman finding her true self with or without man, but not against man. End quote. So as you go through your day, think about what it takes to become your own spiritual authority, to trust that God within, that Christ consciousness within, that wise soul within is guiding you, pushing you, sometimes dragging in the right direction. And you just have to trust that. You don't have to do anything against others, especially not your people, your husband, your spouse, your wife, your children. your mother, your father, your family. You just need to move quietly and gently on your own. Make a great day.